The desert sun hung low over the cracked asphalt of Route 17, casting long shadows from the rusted chain-link fences that bordered the small town of Eldridge. Dust devils swirled lazily in the empty lots, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and engine oil. Logan Pierce gripped the handlebars of his weathered Harley, the low rumble of the V-twin vibrating through his leather vest like a heartbeat he couldn't ignore. At 36, he was a man built from scars, faded tattoos from his days in the Road Crown MC, a jagged line across his jaw from a bar fight he'd walked away from years ago. But those marks paled against the one that ached deepest, the absence of Sarah, his wife. Gone 3 years now from a crash on these very roads. He'd promised her he'd go straight for their boy, Milo. And damn if he hadn't tried. Logan pulled into the driveway of their modest ranch house, the kind with peeling blue paint and a swing set gathering cobwebs. The engine cut off with a sigh, leaving only the distant cry of a hawk slicing the evening air. He kicked the stand down, boots crunching gravel, and glanced at his watch. 5:47 p.m. Milo should be home by now, the school bus rumbling past the old gas station at the corner. But the front door hung slightly ajar, a sliver of yellow light spilling out like an unspoken worry. Inside, the kitchen smelled of leftover chili from last night's dinner, untouched on the counter. Milo's backpack slumped against the fridge, a zipper half open, spilling crayons and a crumpled drawing of a motorcycle with a stick-figure family. Logan called out, his voice rough from the road. "Kid, you here?" No answer. He moved to the living room where the boy sat curled on the threadbare couch, knees to chest, staring at the blank TV screen. 9 years old, with Sarah's dark curls and Logan's stubborn chin. But tonight, Milo's face was a mask, eyes dull, lunchbox clutched like a shield, the peanut butter sandwich inside pristine and squished. "Hey, buddy." Logan knelt, his calloused hand hovering before resting on Milo's shoulder. The boy flinched, just a twitch, but it hit Logan like a punch. "Rough day?" Milo shrugged, whispering, "Ta to the bame," before catching himself and mumbling, "It's fine, Dad." But Logan saw it, the way his son avoided eye contact, the faint red marks peeking from under the sleeve of his hoodie. Fingerprints, fresh and accusing. Logan's gut twisted. He'd dropped Milo at Eldridge Elementary that morning, waving as the kid trudged toward the brick building with its faded banners, promising a safe place to grow. Safe. The word tasted like ash. That night, as the stars pricked the velvet sky outside, Logan sat at the scarred oak table, nursing a black coffee while Milo picked at his dinner. The boy ate in silence, the only sound the tick of the wall clock and the occasional creak of the house settling. Logan waited, patient as the miles he'd logged, trying to outrun his past. Finally, as Milo pushed his plate away, a crumpled paper fluttered from his backpack to the floor. Logan snatched it up before the kid could, unfolding the note with hands that suddenly felt too heavy. "Go back to the trash where you came from." The words were scrawled in childish block letters, ink smudged like tears. Logan's vision narrowed, heat rising in his chest, not rage, not yet, but a cold fire forged from too many broken promises. He'd left the club life for this, custody battles won in a dusty courtroom, nights studying blueprints for a mechanic shop instead of running with the brothers. The Road Crown had been his family once. Brothers who'd pulled him from the wreckage of his service days in the sandbox, where he'd lost more than limbs to the sandstorms. But Sarah's last words echoed, "Be the dad he needs, Logan, not the biker." The next morning dawned crisp, the air sharp with the promise of fall. Logan loaded Milo into the old Ford pickup, the engine coughing to life like an old friend reluctant to wake. The school loomed ahead, a squat fortress of red brick and buzzing fluorescence, parents' cars lining the drop-off lane in a parade of minivans and SUVs. Milo clutched his backpack, eyes fixed on the dashboard. "Dad, can you just let me out here?" Logan nodded, pulling over early. But as Milo unbuckled, he rolled down the window. "You tell me if anything happens, okay? Anything." The boy nodded, but his steps dragged toward the entrance, swallowed by the swarm of kids laughing and shoving. By noon, Logan's phone buzzed in the shop's grease-stained pocket, an unknown number. He wiped his hands on a rag, the metallic tang of oil clinging to his skin, and answered. It was the school counselor, voice clipped and professional. "Mr. Pierce, we need to discuss Milo's behavior. He's been withdrawn." Logan gripped the phone tighter. "What happened?" A pause, then. "He's fine, just sensitive. Perhaps your appearance at drop-off is unsettling the staff." Unsettling. The word ignited something primal. Logan ended the call, staring at the row of Harleys in the back lot, relics of a life he'd caged but never fully escaped. That afternoon, when the bus wheezed to a stop, Milo didn't bound off. He shuffled, hoodie pulled low, one hand pressed to his mouth. Logan met him at the curb, heart pounding like pistons. "Show me." Reluctantly, Milo opened his palm, a tooth, small and white, stained pink. "Fell out in the bathroom," he lied, but his eyes brimmed. Logan knelt, lifting the boy's chin gently. There on the gum, a gap where violence had intruded. No blood, just absence. And in that moment, the dam broke. Logan hugged his son, the boy's sobs muffled against his vest, the world narrowing to the warmth of that small body. He'd promised Sarah. He'd promised Milo. And now the Road Crown's code whispered back, loyalty above all. As twilight bled across the horizon, painting the desert in hues of rust and gold, Logan fired up his phone. One call to Jax, his old VP, and the line crackled with the familiar gravel of brotherhood. "Brother, it's time for the kid." Jax didn't ask why, just the location and time. By dawn, the convoy would roll, not for war, but for presence. 80 strong, engines roaring like thunder over the plains. They wouldn't touch a soul, wouldn't raise a fist, but their silence would speak volumes. A wall of leather and chrome, demanding justice in a world that had forgotten how to listen. And now, if this opening pulls at your heart, hit that like button early. It helps these stories reach more families in need. Your support keeps the ride going. Logan lay awake that night, the ceiling fan whirring softly overhead, casting shadows like ghosts of old rides. Milo slept fitfully in the next room, his breaths ragged echoes of the day's toll. Logan traced the scars on his knuckles, reminders of fists thrown in darker times. But this wasn't about payback. It was about protection, about showing a boy that one man's word could summon a legion. The Road Crown wasn't just bikes and back roads, it was the family you'd bleed for. The promise that held when blood ties frayed. Morning light filtered through the blinds, turning the kitchen gold. Logan packed Milo's lunch, extra cookies, a note scribbled on a napkin. "You're my hero." As they drove to school, the air hummed with unspoken tension, the radio murmuring weather reports of clear skies ahead. But Logan knew storms were brewing inside those walls. He dropped Milo off with a fist bump, watching until the doors closed. Then he turned the truck toward the clubhouse, a nondescript warehouse on the town's edge, where the air always smelled of polish and possibility. Jax was waiting, arms crossed over his broad chest, salt and pepper beard framing a grin. 80 confirmed, we're rolling at 10 sharp. The brothers gathered, veterans like Tank, with his prosthetic leg from the same war that haunted Logan. Quiet Elena, the only woman in the patch, who'd patched more wounds than any medic. They didn't need speeches. Logan's story spilled out in fragments. The note, the tooth, the school's shrug. Nods rippled through the group, eyes hardening with shared memory of slights endured. By 9:45, the lot thrummed. Engines fired in unison, a symphony of growls building to a crescendo. They rode out in formation, a steel river flowing toward Eldridge Elementary, dust trailing like a banner. No whoops, no revs, just purposeful silence. At 10:15, recess bell rang distant, and they pulled up in perfect line outside the chain-link fence, killing engines with precision. Capucets tucked under arms, colettes gleaming under the sun, they stood like sentinels. The playground fell quiet, children pressing against the fence, teachers frozen mid-stride. Milo emerged, scanning the yard, his face lighting when he spotted Logan at the gate. No shouts, no drama. Just a father holding a sign. "My son deserves peace." The words hung simple, bold against the blue sky. Brandon Sutter and his pack hovered, faces paling, their taunts dying unspoken. For the first time, the balance shifted, not by force but by unyielding presence. The playground air thickened with the scent of fresh-cut grass and hot rubber from the bikes. The silence broken only by the distant squeak of swings, abandoned mid-arc. Children clustered like startled birds against the chain-link fence, their whispers a low buzz under the relentless sun. Teachers hovered at the edges, clipboards clutched like shields, eyes darting from the row of leather-clad figures to the principal's office window where Janet Hollis peered out, her face a mask of calculated calm. Logan stood at the forefront, the sign steady in his grip, its black letters stark against the white cardboard. He didn't move, didn't speak, just held his ground. The weight of 80 brothers at his back, a quiet thunder. Milo froze midway across the blacktop, his sneakers scuffing to a halt. The other kids parted around him, some giggling nervously, others staring wide-eyed at the spectacle. Brandon Sutter, the ringleader with his father's sharp jaw and perpetual smirk, nudged his cronies but said nothing, his bravado evaporating like morning dew. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to father and son. Milo's eyes, wide with a mix of fear and wonder, locking onto Logan's. A small smile tugged at the boy's lips, tentative as a first raindrop. Logan nodded once, the gesture saying everything words couldn't. "I'm here. You're safe." From the school's side door, Keisha Monroe emerged, her steps measured but urgent. At 27, she was the newest teacher, her classroom a haven of colorful posters and open discussions in a building that often favored order over empathy. She'd seen the signs before, the withdrawn glances, the unexplained absences, the way certain names on report cards carried unspoken privileges. But today, with the fence lined in chrome and resolve, something shifted in her. She approached the gate, her floral skirt fluttering in the breeze, and unlocked it with a key from her lanyard. "Mr. Pierce," she said softly, voice carrying just far enough. "Can we talk? Inside? Away from this?" Logan glanced at Jax, who gave a subtle nod, the signal to stand down but stay vigilant. He folded the sign under his arm and followed Keisha through the gate, the click of the lock echoing like a decision made. The hallway smelled of chalk dust and cafeteria trays, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Milo trailed behind, hand slipping into Logan's, the boy's palm warm and trusting. They stopped in Keisha's empty classroom, posters of far-off deserts curling at the edges, a stark contrast to Eldridge's dusty confines. "I know why you're here," Keisha began, closing the door with a soft thud. She pulled out her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she scrolled to a folder labeled Concerns. "It's not just Milo. I've documented everything. Incidents, parent complaints swept under the rug. Brandon's father, Evan Sutter. He's on the school board. Donates generously. Last year, a girl in my class had similar marks. Rough play, they called it, but I have timestamps, notes from the custodian who cleaned up after a fight in the bathroom, videos from the hall cams, though they're glitchy on purpose, I think." Logan's jaw tightened, the scars on his knuckles whitening as he clenched a fist. Not in anger, but in the slow burn of realization. This wasn't isolated cruelty, it was a system rotten at the core, protecting its own while kids like Milo paid the price. "Why now?" he asked, voice low, the rumble of his old life threading through. Keisha met his gaze, her eyes fierce. "Because you're here, all of you. It woke something up. Parents are texting me already, ones who've stayed quiet too long. And Milo, he's not the first from a different family. The notes, the shoves, it's targeted to make you all feel small." Outside, the bikers held formation, unmoving statues under the climbing sun. Tank shifted his weight on his prosthetic, the metal glinting, while Elena scanned the faces beyond the fence, her medic's instincts alert for any escalation. Whispers spread among the children. "Are they gonna fight? Nah, look, they're just standing." Dean, a few parents arrived for early pickup, cars idling at the curb, phones raised to capture the scene. Janet Hollis burst from the office then, heels clicking sharply, her coordinator badge swinging like a pendulum. "This is inappropriate. You'll scare the children. Leave now or I'll call the authorities." Jack stepped forward, helmet in hand, his presence alone enough to pause her advance. "Ma'am, we're not here to scare anyone, just to pick up our own." His words were even, laced with the gravel of desert winds, but they carried the weight of the club's code. No threats, only truth. Hollis faltered, glancing at the growing crowd of parents now murmuring in clusters. One mother, her face lined with quiet worry, approached the fence. "My Tommy said the same things happened to him last spring. They blamed the kid." The ripples spread. Another father, sleeves rolled up from a day at the mill, nodded. "Evan Sutter's boy started it with my girl too. Thought we wouldn't speak up." Phones buzzed, texts flying as the unspoken alliance formed, not from leather vests, but from shared pain. Logan emerged from the classroom with Keisha and Milo, the boy's step-lighter clutching a drawing Keisha had given him, a shield with a crown symbolizing strength. "Dad," Milo whispered, "they're all looking." Logan knelt again, eye level. "Let 'em look, kid. We're not hiding anymore." He stood facing Hollis, who now flanked by two aides, her authority cracking like dry earth. "This ends today. No more notes, no more accidents, or we take it higher, the press, the board, with proof." Hollis opened her mouth, but Keisha interjected, holding up her phone. "It's already higher. I've emailed the files to the district superintendent and a reporter I know." The recess bell rang shrill, signaling end to the chaos, but the real shift lingered in the air, heavy as exhaust. The bikers mounted up slowly, engines coughing to life in a staggered roar that vibrated the ground. They didn't peel out in fury, instead they idled, waiting as Milo climbed into Logan's truck, waving shyly at the fence. One by one, the convoy pulled away, dust settling in their wake, leaving behind a school forever altered. Evan Sutter arrived late, his luxury SUV screeching to a halt, face thunderous as he surveyed the empty line, but the damage was done, not to bodies, but to secrets. Back at the ranch house that afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting amber through the windows, Logan sat with Milo on the porch swing. The boy munched an apple, juice dripping, his gap-toothed grin returning. "They stopped, Dad, after you came." Logan ruffled his curls, the promise to Sarah swelling in his chest like a steady engine. The road crown had ridden for family, chosen and blood, reminding a town that silence could be the loudest roar. But as night fell, Logan's phone lit with a message from Jax. "More coming forward. This ain't over." Justice, it seemed, was a long ride, one turn at a time. And now, I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The evening shadows stretched long across the ranch house porch, where the swing creaked rhythmically under Logan and Milo's weight. The air carried the faint tang of cooling earth and distant rain, a rarity in Eldridge's parched landscape. Milo leaned against his father's side, the apple core forgotten in his lap, his small chest rising and falling with the ease of a burden lifted, if only for the moment. Logan's arm draped protectively around him, fingers absently tracing the frayed edge of the boy's hoodie. The road crown's engines had faded into memory, but their echo lingered in the quiet, a reminder that presence could reshape more than playground dirt. Inside, the kitchen light spilled warm onto the linoleum, where Jax had left a six-pack of root beer, non-alcoholic, a nod to Logan's straight path. The old VP had clapped him on the back before riding out, his gravelly voice low. "We got your six, brother. Always." Logan cracked one open for Milo, the fizz a small celebration amid the storm's aftermath. But as the boy sipped, his eyes drifted to the window, where the truck's headlights had carved paths in the gravel earlier. "Dad, what if they come back, like the bad kids?" Logan's throat tightened, the scars on his jaw pulling taut. He set his bottle down, the glass clinking like a vow renewed. "They won't, not alone, and if they try, we've got eyes everywhere now." Sleep came fitful that night, the house groaning under a wind that whispered secrets through the cracks. Logan tossed in the dim glow of his bedside lamp, Sarah's photo on the nightstand, a candid shot from their wedding, her laugh frozen in time. He'd buried the grief deep, trading barroom brawls for bedtime stories. But tonight it surfaced like oil in water. The promise he'd made her bedside, as monitors beeped their final rhythm, replayed, "I'll keep him safe, no matter what." By 2 a.m., his phone vibrated on the charger, pulling him upright. Keisha's name flashed, unknown until today, but now a lifeline. "Mr. Pierce, sorry for the hour." Her voice was hushed, edged with urgency, the background hum of a late-night drive. "I couldn't wait. After recess, Hollis cornered me in the staff lounge. She's furious, says your stunt could cost jobs. But she let something slip. Evan Sutter's been pressuring the board for years, not just donations, favors. His company's got ties to the district budget, and they've buried complaints to keep it quiet." I dug deeper after emailing those files. There's a pattern. Kids from the edge of town, like Milo, always the ones dismissed as trouble. Logan swung his legs over the bed, boots hitting the floor with a thud that echoed his pulse. The room smelled of aged wood and faint motor oil from his vest on the chair. "Proof?" he asked, already pulling on jeans, the denim rough against his skin. Geisha paused, tires crunching over unseen gravel on her end. "More than notes. I accessed the old logbooks. Hollis signed off on resolved incidents that weren't. And there's a whistleblower from 5 years back, a janitor who quit after seeing too much. He emailed me anonymously tonight. Says Sutter's boy isn't the only one. It's a clique, protected because their parents run the town." Dawn broke with a bruised sky, clouds gathering like unspoken accusations over the desert flats. Logan brewed coffee strong as regret, the steam curling toward the ceiling while Milo dressed for another day at school. The boy moved slower now, backpack zipped tight, but there was a spark in his eyes, fed by yesterday's shield of chrome. "You comin' again, Dad?" Logan ruffled his hair, the curls springing back defiant. "Not today, kid, but Jax'll swing by at lunch, eat your sandwich." He watched the bus rumble away from the curb, taillights fading into the morning haze, then fired up the Harley. The engine's growl was a comfort, vibrating through his bones as he headed for the clubhouse. The warehouse lot buzzed with purpose, bikes lined like soldiers at rest, the air thick with polish and fresh brew. Elena met him at the door, her ponytail swinging as she handed over a steaming mug. Tank pulled strings, talked to a buddy in the county clerk's office. Sutter's name pops up in every budget override. And get this, the school's security cams, half are dummies installed cheap to avoid real oversight. Jax joined them at the scarred picnic table. Maps of Eldridge spread out, marked with pins for key spots. The school, Sutter's auto empire downtown, the district office. "We don't ride in blind," Jack said, his beard shadowing a grim smile. "This is about truth, not tires." By mid-morning, the pieces aligned. Keisha arrived unannounced, her car pulling up with a sputter, dust clouding the lot. She clutched a USB drive, knuckles white. "The janitor, real name's Raoul, met me at a diner. He has photos from the bathrooms, timestamps matching the logs. Kids cornered, no teachers in sight, and Hollis knew she rerouted patrols." Logan's fists clenched on the table, the wood grain biting into his palms. Not rage, but the slow forge of resolve, the kind that had carried him through sand-swept patrols overseas, where loyalty meant survival. "We take it to them, clean, no shadows." The district office squatted on the town's main drag, a glass-fronted building reflecting the overcast sky like a false promise. Logan and Jax entered first, the lobby smelling of stale air and bureaucracy, receptionists' eyes widening at their vests. Keisha followed, professional in slacks and blouse, her drive tucked in her pocket. They were ushered to a conference room, with a superintendent, a wiry man named Hargrove with wire-rimmed glasses, waited flanked by aides. Hollis sat rigid at the end, lips pursed. "This is highly irregular," Hargrove began, but Logan cut in, voice steady as a low rev. "Irregular's what they've been doing to our kids." Keisha plugged in the drive, the projector humming to life on the blank wall. Images flickered, blurred but damning, huddled figures in dim halls, dates aligning with complaints. Raoul's testimony scrolled as text, anonymous but irrefutable. Gasps rippled, Hollis's face drained of color. "Fabrications," she stammered, but Hargrove held up a hand, eyes narrowing on a familiar signature. "Janet, is this your approval?" The room fell silent, the weight of exposure pressing like desert heat. Sutter wasn't there yet, but his shadow loomed in every denied report. Outside, as rain began to patter against the windows, Logan stepped into the hall, phone buzzing with a text from Elena. Milo's lunch check clear, but Sutter's circling the school. The ride back felt heavier, tires slicing through gathering puddles, the storm mirroring the one brewing. At home, Milo burst through the door after school, backpack swinging, a drawing clutched in his fist. The bikers as knights, crowns on their helmets. "Keisha said we're heroes, Dad." Logan pulled him close, the boy's laughter a balm against the scars. But as night deepened, Jax's call confirmed it. Sutter was rallying allies, whispers of lawsuits and smears. The road crown would need to ride again, not for confrontation, but to amplify the voices rising from the dust. Justice, Logan knew, demanded endurance, a promise etched in every mile. The rain-slicked streets of Eldridge gleamed under the sodium lamps as Logan's Harley cut through the downpour. Wipers unnecessary on the open road, but the sting of drops lashing his face like accusations. The clubhouse lights flickered ahead, a beacon in the storm, where the road crown waited like embers ready to flare. He killed the engine in the lot, water pooling around his boots, the scent of wet leather mingling with the earthy petrichor rising from the cracked pavement. Jax emerged from the shadows, towel in hand, his broad frame silhouetted against the open door. "How'd it go?" The question hung heavy, laced with the low hum of fluorescent bulbs inside. Logan dismounted, shaking off the rain like a dog, his vest clinging cold to his skin. They saw it. Hargrove's face, worth the ride. But Hollis is scrambling and Sutter's got his claws out. They stepped inside, the warehouse air thick with the aroma of reheated coffee and machine oil. Brothers clustered around a space heater that cast flickering warmth. Elena looked up from her laptop, screen glowing with fresh emails, her fingers pausing mid-keystroke. Districts in damage control. Keisha forwarded their response. Internal review promised by week's end, but whispers say Sutter's lawyered up, painting you as the agitator. Tank leaned against a workbench, his prosthetic leg propped casually, the metallic gleam catching the light. "Let him. We've got the receipts." He tapped a folder of printed logs. the paper edges curling from humidity. Logan nodded, but the weight settled deeper in his chest. Not triumph, but the gnawing certainty that truths unearthed often dug up more dirt. He poured a mug of coffee, steam rising like ghosts, and sank onto a stool, the wood creaking under him. Milo was home with a neighbor, safe for the night, but the boy's drawing burned in his pocket. Knights on steel steeds, a crown of thorns and chrome. A child's faith, fragile as desert bloom. By midnight, the storm eased to a drizzle, tapping the tin roof like impatient fingers. Jax spread a map on the table. Pins marking Sutter's empire, the auto dealership sprawling like weeds, the board meetings where favors flowed unchecked. He's not just influential, he's entangled. Raoul's photos tie into old complaints from the mill workers' kids. Sutter's company supplies the buses, cheap parts, skipped maintenance. One crashed 2 years back, pinned on driver error. But the logs showed tampered brakes. Logan's grip tightened on the mug, ceramic hot against his palm. The parallels hit like aftershocks, his own loss on Route 17, Sarah's Harley skidding on faulty asphalt, the official report closing too quick. "Coincidence," he murmured, voice rough as gravel. Elena shook her head, scrolling through a database. "Pattern, Keisha's reporter friend bit, local papers running a piece tomorrow. Shadows in the schoolyard. Anonymous sources, but it names the cover-ups." The group fell quiet, the heater's fan whirring the only sound, until Jax broke it. "We ride with it. Escort her to the press conference. Show the town's watching." Logan met his eyes, the bond forged in foxholes and backroad runs pulling taut. The road crown wasn't blood, but it was unbreakable, chosen in the fire of lost battles, loyal through the long halls. He'd walked away once for Milo, but now the circle closed, pulling him back not for vengeance, but vindication. Dawn crept in grey and reluctant, the sky a bruised canvas over the flats. Logan collected Milo from the neighbors, the boy's eyes bright despite the early hour, clutching a backpack stuffed with crayons and dreams. "School again?" Milo asked, climbing into the truck, the cab smelling of rain-damp seats and faint crayons. Logan started the engine, the rumble a steady pulse. "Yeah, kid. But today, it's different. Keisha's gonna make sure." He dropped Milo at the curb, watching the doors swallow him, then veered toward the rendezvous point, a diner on the outskirts, neon sign buzzing, open 24/7, like a promise kept. Keisha waited in a booth, nursing black coffee, her face drawn but determined, the USB drive now a talisman on the table. The place hummed with truckers and early risers, the sizzle of bacon underscoring their words. "Hargrove called me at home, wants a meeting, says we can resolve internally if I pull the story." She pushed a napkin aside, revealing a fresh printout, an email chain from Sutter to board members, casual threats veiled as concerns. "He's scared, but so was I until yesterday." Logan slid into the seat opposite, the vinyl creaking. "You're not alone now." The convoy assembled by 8 a.m., engines idling in the diner's lot, a phalanx of chrome against the misty morning. Not 80 this time, 30 strong, enough to line the streets without overwhelming, their presence a silent amplifier. They rolled into town proper, tires hissing on wet asphalt, drawing stares from sidewalks where shopkeepers paused mid-sweep. The press conference was set at the old courthouse, a stone edifice with pillars like weary guardians. Flags limp in the damp air. Reporters milled outside, cameras slung like weapons, the scent of fresh ink and coffee mingling with exhaust. Keisha stepped to the podium first, voice steady under the overcast sky, her words cutting through the murmur. "For too long, Eldridge Elementary has silenced the vulnerable. Today, we bring light." She detailed the logs. The photos blurred for privacy but sharp in implication, marks of aggression dismissed, patterns of protection for the powerful. Flashbulbs popped like distant thunder, questions flying. Who authorized the cover-ups? Is Sutter involved? Logan stood at the edge with Jax, arms crossed, the club's vests a uniform wall. Milo watched from the truck, parked nearby. Elena keeping him company with stories of road adventures. Evan Sutter arrived mid-statement, his SUV barreling up, face flushed beneath a tailored coat. He pushed through the crowd, aides trailing, voice booming. "This is slander. My family's given to this community." But Keisha held up a hand, calm as a desert wind. "Your donations bought silence, Mr. Sutter, not innocence." The reporters swarmed him then, mics thrusting like spears, his bluster cracking under scrutiny. Logan caught Milo's eye through the window, the boy nodding solemnly, a small fist raised in quiet solidarity. As the conference wrapped, rain threatening again, a murmur rippled from the back. More parents emerged. The mill father from recess, a mother with twins clutching her skirt. Even the anonymous janitor, Raoul, had pulled low but stance firm. "I've waited years," he said into a microphone, voice gravelly with release. "No more." The alliance grew, not from leather or law, but from shared scars, voices uniting in the downpour. Sutter retreated to his car, door slamming like defeat, but Logan knew the ride pressed on, investigations looming, hearings to come. Back at the clubhouse that afternoon, as clouds parted to reveal a tentative sun, Logan sat with Milo on the steps, the boy sketching new nights with rain-smeared windows in the background. "You did good, Dad. Like a boss." Logan chuckled, the sound rare and warm, pulling his son close. The phone buzzed, Hargrove conceding a full audit, but Jax's text followed. Sutter's filing motions. "We hold the line." Endurance, Logan thought, the engine of honor carrying them mile by unforgiving mile. The road crown's promise echoed in every heartbeat. Family chosen, justice claimed, one silent stand at a time. If this chapter stirs something in you, hit that like button. It helps these tales of quiet strength reach more hearts in the shadows. The courthouse steps still echoed with the fading chatter of reporters as Logan guided Milo away from the truck, the boy's small hand warm in his, despite the chill dampness clinging to the air. Puddles dotted the sidewalk like scattered judgments, reflecting the fragmented sky where clouds parted grudgingly to let slivers of sun pierce through. The press conference had ended on a high note of reluctant admissions, but Logan's instincts, honed from years of reading the road's subtle curves, told him the turns ahead would be sharper. Sutter's glare, as he stormed off, lingered in his mind. A predator, cornered, not cowed. They rode home in silence, the Harley's engine a low thrum beneath the intermittent patter of residual rain on the windshield. Milo fiddled with the drawing in his lap, the paper crinkling softly, his gap-toothed smile tentative but real. "Did we win, Dad?" The question hung simple, laced with the innocence Logan fought daily to preserve. He glanced over, the desert blurring past in streaks of sage and stone. "Not yet, kid, but we're rolling. That's half the fight." The ranch house came into view, its blue paint a muted beacon against the greening horizon. The porch swing swaying gently in the breeze like an old ally waiting. Inside, the air smelled of fresh bread. Elena had stopped by earlier, leaving a loaf wrapped in foil on the counter, her medic's touch extending to comforts beyond bandages. Logan sliced pieces for them, the knife scraping wood, steam rising with a yeasty warmth that eased the knot in his chest. Milo devoured his, crumbs dusting his shirt, chattering about the night bikes the reporters had snapped photos of. For the first time in weeks, laughter bubbled up unforced, a sound like distant thunder rolling in soft. But as the boy headed to his room for homework, Logan's phone lit the dim kitchen with a harsh glow. An unknown caller, voicemail waiting. He played it back, leaning against the fridge, the hum vibrating through his shoulder. Hargrove's tone was measured, oily with false assurance. Mr. Pierce, we've initiated the audit as discussed, but Mr. Sutter has raised concerns. Your involvement, the club's presence. It could complicate custody reviews. Perhaps a meeting to clarify. The words slithered like oil on water, threatening the fragile stability Logan had built, brick by PTA meeting brick. Custody. The word ignited a cold fury, memories flashing of courtrooms where judges eyed his tattoos like evidence of guilt. Sarah's accident report, too neatly filed, flickered in his thoughts. Tires that failed on a straight stretch. Whispers of subpar parts from Sutter's suppliers, dismissed as coincidence. Twilight deepened outside, painting the windows in indigo hues, the hawk's cry a lone sentinel over the flats. Logan stepped onto the porch, dialing jacks as the swing creaked under his weight. The line connected with a click, the VP's voice gravelly from a day of calls. "Brother, you hear? Sutter's spinning it. Local blog calling us vigilantes in vests. Says we're intimidating witnesses." Logan gripped the phone tighter, knuckles paling against the scars. "He's buying time. We need more than logs. Tie it to the road." Jax paused, the background clatter of the clubhouse filtering through, clinking tools, low murmurs of strategy. On it. Tanks digging into those bus contracts. Meet at dawn. Sleep evaded Logan that night, the ceiling fan's blades slicing shadows across the walls, each pass a reminder of promises unkept if he faltered. Milo's room door stood ajar, the boy sprawled under a blanket fort of pillows, breathing steady as a calm sea. Logan lingered in the doorway, the faint scent of crayons and childhood clinging to the air, his heart a steady drum against the ribs. He'd traded the club's wild freedom for this quiet harbor, but the waves were crashing now, pulling at the anchors. Dawn broke with a rosy glow over the warehouse lot, dew beading on the bikes like unshed tears. The road crown assembled in the half-light, 30 shadows coalescing around the picnic table, coffee steam mingling with the sharp tang of dew-kissed metal. Elena spread fresh printouts, her voice crisp as she pointed to highlighted lines. Sutter's auto parts fed the district fleet for years, brakes, tires, all below spec. Sarah's crash? Same batch number as the bus incident 2 years back. Official probe closed it fast, but the mechanic's report was altered. Logan's breath caught, the world tilting like a bike on loose gravel. Altered. The pieces locked, not just schoolyard cruelty, but a web spun from corners, cut for profit. Lives like Sarah's snuffed to protect ledgers. Tank nodded, his prosthetic tapping rhythmically on the bench. Raoul confirmed it last night, saw Sutter's crew delivering special shipments to the yard, no inspections. The group murmured assent, eyes reflecting the shared fire of purpose, not vengeance. Jax leaned in, map creased under his elbows. "We don't storm, we deliver, straight to the state board. Keisha's got the auditor's ear now." Logan traced the route on the paper, fingers steady despite the storm inside. This ride would unearth more than school scandals. It could rewrite his own ghosts, turning loss into legacy. By mid-morning, the convoy formed, engines purring to life in a staggered chorus that vibrated the ground. They escorted Keisha's unassuming sedan to the county line, where a state investigator waited in a nondescript office building, its facade as bland as the secrets it guarded. The air inside smelled of recycled paper and stale resolve. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like hesitant witnesses. Keisha presented the dossier first, her words measured, the USB drive clicking into a port with finality. Logan followed, his testimony raw but restrained. The notes in Milo's bag, the tooth in his palm, the pattern of dismissal that echoed Sarah's unanswered questions. The investigator, a woman named Reyes with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense bun, flipped through pages, her pen scratching notes. This implicates more than education, transportation safety, potential fraud. Sutter's name surfaced repeatedly, a thread pulling tighter. As they rapped, Reyes's phone rang. Hargrove, no doubt, but she silenced it, meeting Logan's gaze. "You've opened the floodgates, Mr. Pierce. Expect pushback." Outside, the bikers idled, a living barrier against the gathering press vans, their silence a roar that demanded reckoning. Back in Eldridge by noon, the sun climbed high, baking the asphalt into waves of heat. Logan picked up Milo from school, the boy bounding into the truck with a wave to Keisha, who stood at the gate, her smile weary but unbroken. "No trouble today," Milo reported, buckling in, the cab filling with the scent of playground dirt and optimism. But as they pulled away, a black SUV tailed them briefly, Sutter's, unmistakable in its gleam, before veering off at the light. A warning, not a chase. That evening, as the desert cooled into twilight's embrace, Logan gathered the family, blood and chosen, at the ranch house. Jax brought burgers from the diner, the grill's smoke curling lazy into the sky, laughter mingling with the sizzle. Milo perched on Tank's knee, listening wide-eyed to tales of road-bound honor, the prosthetic no barrier to the giant's warmth. Elena bandaged a minor scrape on the boy's elbow from recess tag, her touch gentle. "Strength isn't in the scars," she said softly, "but in what you build after." Yet under the camaraderie, tension simmered. Jax pulled Logan aside by the fence, the chain link rattling in the breeze. "Sutter's filing for injunction, claims harassment. We counter with the facts." Logan nodded, eyes on the horizon where stars began to prick the velvet. The promise to Sarah pulsed stronger now, woven with the club's unyielding thread. Redemption wasn't a destination. It was the miles between stands, each one forging justice from the dust of doubt. As night fully claimed the sky, Milo yawned, heading inside, but Logan lingered, the engine of resolve humming low. The ride continued, turning sharper, but they rode together, unbroken, unrelenting. The night air hung heavy around the ranch house, thick with the scent of cooling grill smoke and the faint, acrid bite of distant thunderheads rolling in from the west. Logan stood by the fence, the chain link cool under his palms, stars emerging one by one like hesitant allies in the deepening black. Jax's words echoed in his ears. "We counter with the facts." A mantra as solid as the Harley's frame. Inside, the low murmur of voices carried Milo's laughter, sharp and pure, cutting through the tension like a headlight beam. But Logan's gaze fixed on the horizon, where the road to Eldridge twisted into shadow, hiding whatever Sutter might unleash next. Sleep came in fragments, the house settling with creaks that mimicked the groan of overtaxed engines. By 3 a.m., the phone shattered the quiet, a sharp trill that yanked Logan upright, sheets tangling around his legs like restraints. He fumbled for it, the screen's glow harsh against the dark, Keisha's name pulsing. "Logan, it's bad. Hollis resigned tonight. Forced out, they say, but Sutter's twisting it. He's claiming the whole thing's a setup by outside agitators, your club. And he's subpoenaed Milo for a welfare check. Custody hearing tomorrow afternoon." Her voice cracked on the last word, the background hum of her car suggesting she was driving, fleeing some unseen pursuit. Logan's blood ran cold, the room spinning as memories flooded back. The courtroom 3 years prior, Sarah's empty chair, Judge's eyes lingering on his ink like it marked him unfit. He swung out of bed, boots thudding softly on the floorboards, the air stale with unslept worry. They can't touch him, not without cause. Keisha exhaled, tires hissing over wet pavement. Reyes from the state backed us. The audit's uncovering more. Sutter's parts in the buses? Faulty across the board, but he's got local pull. The judge is his golf buddy. Meet me at the diner at dawn. Bring the brothers. The sky lightened to a bruised lavender as Logan roused the house, coffee brewing with a gurgle that filled the kitchen like resolve. Milo stirred, rubbing sleep from his eyes, the boy's curls a wild halo in the morning light filtering through the blinds. "What's wrong, Dad?" Logan knelt, the linoleum cool against his knees, pulling Milo into a hug that smelled of crayons and innocence. "Just grown-up road stuff. You head to school with Elena today. She'll keep an eye." The boy nodded, trusting as ever, but his small hand lingered on Logan's vest, fingers tracing the road crown patch like a talisman. The diner lot steamed under the rising sun, puddles from last night's drizzle evaporating into misty veils that clung to the bikes assembling in tight formation. Jax arrived first, his Harley pulling up with a throaty rumble, followed by Tank and Elena, their engines sinking like a heartbeat. Keisha waited inside, a booth claimed amid the clatter of plates and the sizzle of hash browns, her face pale but eyes fierce. She slid a folder across the formica, the paper crisp against the sticky surface. "Subpoenas real, Sutter's painting you as unstable. Old club runs, the recess stand." But Reyes sent this. Lab reports on those bus parts, matches Sarah's crash debris, brake lines compromised, same supplier. Logan's fingers stilled on the edge, the world narrowing to the typed lines. Batch numbers, failure points, a coroner's note buried in addendums. The accident that stole Sarah wasn't fate or fatigue, it was negligence, wrapped in Sutter's greed. Heat bloomed in his chest, not the wildfire of youth, but a steady forge tempered by fatherhood. He knew, all this time. Jax's hand clamped his shoulder, solid as an anchor. "We ride to the courthouse, not in force. Escort, show the judge we're family, not foes." The convoy moved out at 9 a.m., a measured procession through Eldridge's waking streets, tires whispering over damp asphalt that gleamed like polished chrome. Shop awnings fluttered in the breeze, carrying scents of fresh pastries and motor oil from the garages lining the drag. They pulled up to the courthouse in orderly ranks, 20 strong now, dismounting with the precision of old patrols. Helmets tucked, postures straight, no revs or roars. Reporters swarmed the steps, cameras flashing like lightning, but the bikers formed a quiet cordon, allowing Keisha and Logan through. The hearing room smelled of polished oak and faded ink, sunlight slanting through high windows to dust motes dancing like unspoken fears. The judge, a silver-haired man named Harlan with a paunch straining his robe, banged the gavel, the sound echoing sharp. Sutter sat across the aisle, flanked by lawyers in crisp suits, his face a mask of feigned concern. "Your Honor, Mr. Pierce's recent actions endanger the child, associating with known elements, disrupting school." The words slithered, but Logan stood, voice level as a horizon line. "Those elements are my family. They stood for my son when the school wouldn't." Keisha testified next, her heels clicking softly on the tile as she approached the stand, the folder open like an accusation. "The evidence shows systemic failure, Your Honor. Bullying covered up, safety compromised for profit." She detailed the logs, the photos, tying them to the buses, and Sarah's file, pulled from public records by Reyes. Harlan leaned forward, glasses slipping as the lab report projected on a screen, fractures identical, signatures linking Sutter's firm. Murmurs rippled. Sutter shifted, his ally judge's composure cracking like thin ice. Milo entered then, escorted by Elena, the boy in a clean shirt, eyes wide but chin lifted. He took the stand without prompting, voice small but steady. "My dad's good. He makes me lunches, the bikers. They're nice. They came because the other kids were mean." The room hushed, the weight of a child's truth heavier than any ledger. Sutter's lawyer objected, but Harlan waved it off, eyes narrowing on the evidence stack. "Enough! This hearing's about welfare, not vendettas. Mr. Sutter, your involvement raises questions the state will address." Adjournment came swift, the gavel's crack a punctuation. Outside, the sun beat down, baking the steps into warmth that seeped through Logan's boots. Reporters pressed, but Jax's presence parted them like a bow wave. Milo ran to Logan, arms wrapping tight, the hug a lifeline amid the flashbulbs. "Did I do okay?" Logan knelt, the pavement rough against his knee, ruffling the curls. "Better than okay, kid. You rode point." Sutter stormed past, eyes venomous. But the tide had turned, audits expanding, his empire under scrutiny. Back at the ranch that afternoon, as shadows lengthened across the yard, the house filled with the chosen family's hum. Tank-grilled steaks, smoke curling lazy, while Eleanor quizzed Milo on homework, her laughter blending with the boys. Jax pulled Logan aside to the garage, where the Harley sat like a faithful steed, tools scattered on the bench. Reyes called, full probe into Sutter's operations. Buses grounded, contracts voided, but he's cornered, watch your six. Logan nodded, wiping a rag over the chrome, the metal gleaming with promise. The scars on his hands caught the light, badges of battles won and lost, but today they felt like maps to redemption. Evening fell soft, the desert air cooling to a crisp edge, stars wheeling overhead as Logan tucked Milo in, the boy's eyelids heavy. "Night, Dad. We're knights, right?" Logan smiled, the door clicking shut behind him. Alone in the kitchen, coffee steaming untouched, he scrolled the news alerts, headlines breaking on the cover-ups, Sutter's name front and center. Justice wasn't a single roar, it was the long haul, promises kept through every shadowed mile. But as the clock ticked toward midnight, a distant engine growl pricked his ears. Sutter's last stand, perhaps, or just the wind. Either way, the road crown was ready, loyalty's engine idling strong. The midnight growl of engines faded into the night's embrace, leaving only the whisper of wind through the sagebrush and the steady tick of the ranch house cooling under the stars. Logan stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, coffee mug forgotten in his grip, steam curling like unanswered questions. The sound wasn't Sutter's, just a lone rider passing on Route 17, a ghost of the roads that had shaped him. But the vigilance lingered, a habit etched deep as the tattoos under his vest. He set the mug down with a soft clink, the ceramic warm against the scarred oak table, and stepped outside. The porch swing swayed gently, inviting him to sit, but rest felt like surrender. Instead, he leaned against the railing, eyes tracing the horizon where Eldridge's lights flickered like distant campfires. Dawn arrived with a golden hush, painting the desert in strokes of amber and rose, the air crisp with the promise of renewal. Logan roused Milo early, the boys' room bathed in soft light filtering through curtains dotted with rocket ships. "Up and at 'em, Knight," Logan murmured, shaking the blanket lightly. Milo stirred, yawning wide, his gap-toothed grin breaking through sleep's veil. The kitchen filled with the sizzle of eggs and the rich aroma of bacon, Eleanor arriving unannounced with a basket of fresh fruit from her garden, her medic's bag slung over one shoulder just in case. "Heard the hearing wrapped clean," she said, slicing an apple with precise strokes, the juice glistening on the blade. Reyes confirmed. "Sutter's buses are impounded. Full recall." Milo bounced in his seat, fork waving like a scepter. "No more mean buses." Logan chuckled, plating the food, the warmth spreading through him like sunlight on chrome. But the phone buzzed before he could answer, Jack's voice gravelly with early morning resolve. "Brother, it's moving fast. State teams raiding Sutter's yard at sunrise. Faulty parts stacked like cordwood. And the lab? Sarah's reports being reopened, official link to his supply chain." The words landed heavy, a long-buried weight, lifting inch by inch. Logan gripped the counter, knuckles whitening, the scent of breakfast mingling with a surge of vindication. Not revenge, but truth, the kind that mended fractures time couldn't touch. By mid-morning, the convoy reformed, not in force, but in quiet solidarity, bikes lining the road to the courthouse like sentinels under the climbing sun. The air hummed with exhaust and anticipation, dust motes dancing in the heat haze. Reporters clustered at the barriers, cameras poised, but the road crown held back, a respectful perimeter allowing the law its due. Inside the hearing room, now transformed for the board's emergency session, the atmosphere crackled like dry lightning. Harlan presided again, his robe crisp, face etched with the gravity of unraveling secrets. Sutter sat diminished, ties loosened, lawyers whispering urgently as folders of evidence piled before him. Logs from the school, invoices from the auto yard, coroner's amendments tying faulty brakes to 3 crashes, including Sarah's. Keisha took the stand first, her voice clear and unyielding, the floral scent of her blouse a soft contrast to the room's stale tension. These aren't isolated errors. They're choices, protecting profit over people, silence over safety. She projected the timeline, school complaints buried alongside maintenance waivers, Sutter's signatures weaving through it all. Parents filled the benches now, the mill father nodding solemnly, Raoul the janitor testifying in measured tones about shipments in the dead of night. "I swept it up, but I couldn't forget," he said, eyes steady on Sutter, who avoided the gaze, sweat beading on his brow. Logan followed, called as a witness, his boots echoing on the tile as he approached. The judge's eyes flicked to his vest, but there was no judgment, only curiosity. "Mr. Pierce, your role in this?" Logan stood tall, the scars on his jaw catching the light. "I stood for my son. For every kid dismissed, the road crown? We're the family that shows up when systems fail." He detailed Milo's notes, the tooth, the recess stand, not as intimidation, but as awakening. Presence broke the quiet. Truth does the rest. Murmurs rippled. Even Sutter's lead counsel shifted uncomfortably as Reyes entered from the wings, her briefcase snapping open to reveal sealed reports. "Criminal inquiry underway, Your Honor. Embezzlement, endangerment, the web's wide." The gavel fell at noon, the sound definitive as an engine cut off. "Mr. Sutter, you're relieved from all board duties pending charges. The school undergoes full reform, independent oversight, anti-bullying protocols mandatory." Sutter rose, face ashen, but his exit was unceremonial, aides trailing like shadows fleeing light. Outside, the sun blazed triumphant, baking the steps into a welcoming warmth. Reporters surged, but Jax's arm guided Logan through, the club's line parting seamlessly. Milo waited at the truck, Elena's hand on his shoulder, the boy's face alight as Logan approached. "Dad, did we fix it?" Logan scooped him up, the weight familiar and fierce, spinning once before setting him down. "We did, kid. All of us." The afternoon unfolded in waves of closure, the ranch house a hub of chosen kin. Tank fired up the grill again, burgers sizzling with the tang of onions and peppers, laughter echoing across the yard where Milo chased a soccer ball, his shouts mingling with the hawk's cry overhead. Elena tended a scrape from the game, her touch light, while Jax shared stories of old rides, the circle widening to include Keisha and even Raoul, who arrived with a tentative 6-pack of sodas. "Never thought I'd see this town listen," Raoul said, clinking bottles, the fizz a toast to silenced voices rising. As evening gold washed the horizon, Logan slipped away to the garage, Sarah's photo tucked in his pocket like a compass. The Harley gleamed under the worklight, chrome reflecting fragments of the day's victories. He traced the handlebars, the metal cool and unyielding, whispering a silent promise fulfilled, safety for Milo, truth for her memory. The phone lit with a final alert. Sutter arrested at his estate, charges mounting like miles on an odometer. No fanfare, just justice, poetic in its quiet grind. Night fell complete, stars a canopy over the desert's hush. Logan tucked Milo in, the boy's eyelids drooping, a new drawing on the nightstand. A family on bikes, crowns shining bright. "We're unbreakable, right, Dad?" Logan kissed his forehead, the curls soft against his lips. like the road itself. In the kitchen, alone with the embers of the day's fire, he felt the scars not as burdens, but bridges, to redemption, to the family woven from loyalty's thread. The road crown's engine idled eternal, carrying them forward, one promise at a time. Thank you for riding this journey with us. Stories of honor and heart like these thrive on your support. If it moved you, subscribe for more tales of quiet courage and hit that notification bell to never miss a chapter. Your presence makes the difference.